Ethan first noticed the shadow on a Tuesday evening. At the time, he didn't think much of it. It appeared stretched across the living room floor, cast at an angle that didn't quite match the lighting in the room. He assumed it was coming from outside, maybe a passing car or a shifting streetlight, and ignored it without a second thought. But the next day, it was still there. That was when it began to feel strange. The position hadn't changed. It lay in the exact same place at the same angle, as though frozen in time. Ethan stood near the doorway, staring at it for a moment longer than he intended, trying to figure out what could be casting it. The curtains were drawn, the lights inside were steady, and nothing in the room matched the shape on the floor. It didn't make sense. He moved closer, expecting the shadow to shift or fade as he approached, but it didn't react at all. It remained perfectly still, its edges sharp and defined, as though it belonged to something solid rather than something shaped by light. Ethan crouched slightly, studying it more carefully. The outline was vaguely human, stretched unnaturally long, with proportions that didn't quite align with any object in the room. It didn't connect to anything. It simply existed on its own. That was the moment the unease began. He stepped back, shaking his head as he tried to dismiss the feeling. There had to be a logical explanation. There always was. Still, the longer he stayed in the room, the harder it became to ignore the presence of the shadow, especially when it refused to behave like one. That night, he turned off all the lights before going to bed. The shadow didn't disappear. Ethan stood in the doorway, staring into the darkness of his apartment. The faint outline of it was still there, visible even without a source of light. It didn't fade. It didn't shift. It remained exactly where it had been, as though it existed independently of everything else. A quiet tension settled in his chest. He didn't sleep well that night. By morning, the shadow was still there. Ethan tried to go about his day as usual, but his attention kept drifting back to it. Every time he passed through the living room, he found himself glancing at the floor, half expecting it to be gone. It never was. By the third day, he stopped trying to ignore it. Instead, he began to test it. He moved furniture around the room, shifting the couch, the table, anything that might affect the way light moved through the space. Nothing changed. The shadow remained fixed in place, untouched by anything he did. He even blocked the windows completely, cutting off any possible external light source. Still, it stayed. That evening, as he sat on the edge of the couch staring at it, a thought crossed his mind that he couldn't shake. What if it wasn't a shadow? The idea settled heavily in his thoughts, refusing to leave. It explained too much. The stillness, the lack of connection to light, the way it remained even in complete darkness, it all pointed to something else entirely, something that wasn't supposed to be there. Ethan leaned forward slightly, his eyes narrowing as he focused on the outline. The longer he looked, the more details he began to notice. Subtle curves, faint shapes within the darkness, as though the shadow had depth to it, as though it wasn't flat. A quiet unease turned into something sharper. He stood up slowly, his gaze never leaving it, and took a cautious step closer. The air in the room felt heavier, thicker somehow, making each movement feel more deliberate. Then, for the first time, the shadow reacted. It shifted. The movement was small, almost imperceptible, but unmistakable. The edge of it twitched slightly, pulling inward as though responding to his presence. Ethan froze. His breath caught in his throat as he stared at it, waiting to see if it would move again. For a few seconds, nothing happened, and he almost convinced himself that he had imagined it. Then it shifted again. This time there was no mistaking it. The shadow moved toward him. Ethan stumbled back immediately, his heart racing as the shape stretched slightly, adjusting itself across the floor. It didn't move quickly. It didn't rush. It simply repositioned itself, as though closing the distance between them. A cold realization settled in. It was aware of him. He backed away further, his eyes locked on it, his mind struggling to process what was happening. Shadows didn't move on their own. They didn't react. They didn't exist without something to cast them. And yet, this one did. That night, he didn't turn off the lights. He sat in the corner of the room, watching it, waiting for it to move again. Hours passed in silence, the tension slowly building as exhaustion began to take hold. At some point, without realizing it, he must have drifted off. When he woke up, the room was darker. Not completely dark, but dimmer than it should have been. It took him a moment to realize why. The shadow was bigger. Ethan's chest tightened as he stared at it. It had spread further across the floor, stretching closer to where he sat. The edges were no longer as sharp as before. They shifted slightly, almost like something breathing. Slowly, steadily, Ethan pushed himself back, pressing against the wall as far as he could go. His mind raced, trying to find an explanation, but there was nothing left to rationalize. The shadow wasn't just there anymore. It was growing, and it was getting closer. He scrambled to his feet, his movements quick and uneven as he backed toward the door. He didn't take his eyes off it, not even for a second. The shadow responded immediately, its shape adjusting, stretching further in his direction. It wanted him closer. Ethan reached the door and pulled it open, stepping into the hallway. For a brief moment, he felt a sense of relief, the distance giving him a chance to think. Then he looked down. The shadow was there too. It had followed him. Ethan's breath caught as he stared at the floor. It lay at his feet, perfectly aligned with him now, no longer stretched unnaturally across the room. It looked normal. Almost. Except it moved when he didn't. A slow shift, just enough to make it clear that it was no longer reacting to light or position. It was moving on its own. Ethan stood frozen as the realization settled in, heavy and unavoidable. It hadn't been staying in the apartment. It had been waiting. And now, it didn't need the room anymore. It had him. Its mythic murmurs.